Today we're talking about something that all artists wrestle with. How do you find your audience and how do you get seen? Hi, I'm Mats, an advertising creative on a journey to achieve creative freedom as an artist creator. And if you're anything like me, you too want to do creative work that makes a difference while at the same time make a living. So let's break it down into 5 parts: the why, who, how, and what, and then a little bonus tip at the end. 1. The why. But why? I hear you ask. So let's talk about audiences, because knowing who you're talking to is crucial. I think when you're looking at, for example, like an art channel, if we're talking about niches, it's a relatively small niche. It's never going to have hundreds of billions of subscribers. When we're talking about audience, you could talk about size and you can talk about depth of engagement. I think what we're talking about today is depth of engagement, because that's depth of caring. That will mean that you will have a more engaged audience. 2. Who? Who are they? For we don't define our audience in people who like art or everyone. Those things are way too broad. You need to think much more specifically, much more narrow. I wrote this book a few years back, and I'll cover this in more detail in the future video. I'll tell you about how I made it, how I wrote it, how I got it published, etc. But for now, I just want to bring your attention to one thing I say in this book, which is there's a new way of defining audience, and it's not by some standard old metric. The new way of talking about this is, instead of talking about who they are, it's talking about who they want to become. Are you on a journey like I am? Do you have a yearning to do something different? That's what matters. It's our mindset, my mindset and your mindset, or your audience mindset. That's what matters. And it makes it much, much easier for us to define who they are. So in this channel, I'm really focusing on transformation, my transformation and your transformation. Everything I want to learn, I'm thinking you want to learn. Everything I'm going through, you might be going through. So you're either on this journey or you might have a desire to go on this journey. Maybe you're a little bit scared. Maybe this can act as helping you along to your journey. And when you go to define your audience, I want you to do the same thing. Think about your likes, your world. You want to create a world around you, around all the things that makes you you, and then invite people into that space. And it'll be helpful for you to think in the same way. This ultimately then is defining your audience as a tribe, as a group of people. I heard very recently someone to define it as a club. Yeah, that's, you can define it as a club if you want. A club where you get to invite whomever you want, but it's only certain people who belong in that club. Most people don't belong in that club, and they're not your audience, and it doesn't matter. Point number 3, how? Now, how do you actually find them? And I think the answer here is definitely not shouting louder. Instead, it's about speaking with a more true voice. So for me, this is about showing the process, the true process. And bit by bit, I want to share more and more about behind the scenes bits, all the little failures, all the messy chaos, all those things that normally people would hide. I want to show, and I think you could do the same. I've heard someone call this "show them your fingerprint," and I think that's quite nice. Then obviously it's about showing up where your audience hangs out. I believe that my audience, you, other people, and maybe if you're into what I'm into, maybe this would apply to you as well, which is my my audience is on YouTube. I think also possibly Substack, which I'm about to start very soon. I've gone through all these channels. I mean, I will have, as I mentioned in a previous video, I will have an art. I already do have an art presence on Instagram, Meta, bit of Facebook. I think TikTok, I have some presence on. However, I think it's a little bit too young for what I perceive as my audience. Obviously, those are digital channels. Obviously, there's lots of real life events you can go to and do things to kind of meet other people like you. You'll become their audience, they will become yours. Ultimately, I believe that it's people connecting with other people. This is not about perfection. No one is perfect. I'm certainly not perfect. But if my work is honest, if your work is honest, I believe that the audience will come one by one. Part 4. What? So now that the audience have arrived, what do we give them? Well, let's give them a world. It's absolutely not just about selling products or showing products. It needs to be something more. We want to see the human behind the work that you do, your motivations on why you're doing what you're doing, your passion, dare I say, even though it's a cliched word. That's what we want to see. Your story at the core, and then all the bits around it, your world. That's what you need to give them. That's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to kind of fail and succeed in real time. It's kind of laying yourself out there for everyone to see. No holds barred. So if the art is a doorway into this world, maybe once your audience enters your world, it's your personality, your opinions, all of these things that make them want to stay in that world. As we mentioned before, an audience often don't just want to consume, they really want to belong to something. It's about inviting your audience into your process. How does your work function? How does your mind function? How you're a complex artist. Tell us about you, not just your art. And once you've made them part of your process, perhaps this is when they become a tribe. Maybe you name them. Maybe then that's the ultimate audience when you can define them as a group. Because people, when they feel they belong to something, they tend to stick around. They tend to engage. And here we go back to where we started. They tend to feel deeper, engage deeper. And this is why that matters so much. So, to recap, why? Because you need an audience, because your art and you need to connect. Who? Find people who reflect you. How? Be you. Be a human. Have flaws. Show us your fingerprint. And for what? Give them a world, not just a product. Remember, finding your audience shouldn't be a marketing task. It should be an adventure in humanity. Thank you for sticking around this long. Here's my bonus tip. Don't wait to have an audience before you start creating. This literally have no audience right now. No one is watching this. No one is watching my art. It doesn't matter. I know I'm building an audience slowly. I know that they will come. Which is why I say create like no one is watching. Because when you start showing up like that, they will come. If this helped, please drop a comment below and let me know where you're at in your art journey. I'll see you next time and keep making dents.